Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to Tangle Time Arts. I'm Nana Heron, and I'm a certified Zentangle teacher, and I've been one since 2020. And today we are looking at week 11 of our Tangle of the Week. And since it's St. Patrick's Day tomorrow, Sunday, and it's St. Patrick's Day weekend, I thought we'd take a look at how to draw a shamrock and fill it with a variation of jonqual. All right, so for today's project, you'll need a black pen and a number 2 pencil, a tortillon, and I am going to use a couple of gel pens today. I have a Gelly Roll Metallic and a Uniball Gold pen, and I also have uh, just a piece of white scrap paper, computer paper, and another pen to practice our shamrock shapes with. All right, let's start first with practicing how to draw a shamrock. So I just have scrap paper and any random pen. Shamrocks have 3 leaves. So the easiest way, well, one of the easiest ways to orient the 3 leaves in the proper directions is going to be, let's see, to kind of picture a triangle in the center. And I'm just going to represent that with 3 dots. And I'm just practicing with any black pen. And then those 3 dots are going to be where our leaves gather together. So what I'm going to do is pick any 2 dots, and straight up from that, in the center of that, I'm going to start with a heart shape, but end at a dot. And I'll do the same on the other side. So you're just making 2 curves into a heart shape, and it meets at either point. And I'm going to rotate my paper. And again, I'm picturing the center between these next 2 dots. So here's the center, and I kind of come up here. And you can even put a little dot there. And then you do the curve shapes again. So you're making another heart shape. And then I'm going to rotate. And between the last 2 dots, again, picturing the center, coming up from the center, can make a dot if you need to. And then just fill in the last heart shape like that. And from there, if you want, you can fill in a stem. Just kind of fill that with the printemps. And that's kind of one way to do a shamrock. And let's see, I'll just flip this over. Another way would be to actually, let me take a pencil here. So we could put a dot in the center and kind of picture these spokes coming out from it like that. So again, we have 1, 2, 3. And this is actually, if you want to picture like a triangle shape. Let me press a little harder so that you could see on the camera. Sorry about that. And again, it's kind of like a triangle shape here, okay? And then you would take your pen and starting at the top of one of the spokes, you're just going to do your heart shapes. And it's another way to do it, but I like the first way better. So you have 3 leaves, and then you can choose to add a stem somewhere. But I feel like the first way I end up with a kind of more even, better looking shamrock shape. All right, so I'm going to put that away, putting my scrap paper away and my pen away. And then I am going to use a plain white tile, or you can use another piece of white paper if you would like. And I'm going to take my black pen and we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to, I'm going to go with the 3 dots. 1, 2, 3. And it doesn't have to be exactly in the center. Mine's definitely not in the center, but close. And my 3 dots are spaced so that it's almost the same as the cap of my pen. It's like the same width of my pen cap. And then from there, I'm going to go with the curves to make the heart shape. Now, I'm starting with these 2 dots and in the center of that going straight up and then making that heart shape. And then I'm going to rotate. And again, between these 2 dots, I'm going to go straight up, making a dot if I need to, and then making the heart shape. And that just leaves our 3rd leaf between the final 2 dots. Find our center roughly, go straight up. And make our heart shape. Okay. And then what I'd like to do is I would like to do an aura around these shapes. So I'm going to pick any one of these leaves and I'm going to start not at the valley point here, but a little up from it. And I'm going to aura around the heart shape, but then come in to that point where they meet. And I'll do the same on the other side. And I'll pick another leaf and do the same thing. And then we'll do that again over here. Like that. And then at this point, you can choose a spot to put a stem in there if you'd like. I kind of have more of a gap here. So I'm going to put my stem in here. And I'm just going to start in that valley and make a curve out. I'm going to aura that. And then I'm just going to end in an oval here, like that. Now that we have our shamrock shape, I am going to fill it with, at first I thought I was going to use Knightsbridge, but I think Jonqual looks like a nice alternative, but we're going to vary it a little bit and use a straight line instead of a curved line. We're aiming for the center of our initial triangle. So I'm just going to draw a straight line in that first heart shape. And then for Jonqual, we're using these zigzag lines. So since we only have 2 spaces, it's more of a V shape. And then we just aura that. And for this last one, I'm just going to bring these points in to the center. I'm going to rotate our shamrock and do the same thing with the next heart shape. And I'm just going to draw this one as a little bit of a curved line to the center. But again, I'm going to do V shapes here. If you had more space and more lines, that's when you would do the zigzag. And I'm going to have this meet up here. And then I'm going to rotate, and we're already on our third leaf shape. Draw a line to the center. And again, with the V shape. And this already meets up. Okay. So Jonqual, just like Knightsbridge, and even Braze, is one of those drama tangles. And it has a lot of ink work in it, and you could switch to a black pen with a wider tip. I'm just going to stick with the one that I'm using, because instead of inking the entire area in, I'm going to just go with lines. So I'm just kind of filling in with lines. And for my first area, I just picked a random one. So once I have that filled in with the lines, I'm going to choose another one. But instead of just thinking like, oh, I'll skip this one and go to this one, I'm going to do just like we do with Knightsbridge. I'm going to pick one that touches this a corner of our initial one. So I'm going to go up here because we've got corners that are touching, the kissing corners, and I'm going to fill that in. And again, I'm using lines, but you could choose to ink the entire area in if you'd like. And then we've got two corners touching here. So I'm going to go to this one. And then we've got corners touching here. And then I'm going to rotate to work on our next leaf. And I'm going to be consistent, because with this one, I had an empty one and then a filled in one. So I'm going to leave this one empty, and then I'm going to fill in this one. So I'm just keeping it consistent. Once I finish that, again, I'm looking for the corners that touch. And I've got these corners that are touching. And you can always go back and fill in if you feel there's too much space somewhere. You can just go back and add another line. And I've got corners touching here. All right, we've got two done already. I'm going to rotate. And same thing, I'm going to leave this one empty and start with the second one, because that's what we did on the first two. And again, you can, instead of using lines, because I'm kind of doing a little bit of a variation here, You can just ink it in completely if you'd like. And you don't have to use black. You could use green or gold or any color that you'd like your shamrock to be. And again, the touching corners, kissing corners. Your lines don't have to be straight because no one's going to notice if they're straight or not because there's so many of them. And we've got kissing corners here. All right, so let's rotate that around and take a look. So we've got our shamrock in there with our Jonqual tangle. And then I'd like to add a little more. We could shade this right now. You could just take some graphite and shade around it. But for a little bit of interest, I think I'd like to add some tipple in here. And tipple, if you remember, are these little orbs. And they can be tiny or medium shape sized or larger. And you kind of just tuck them in. I like to tuck them in pretty tightly. So I've got some tipple going in there. And I'm going to add some here. And it's always nice if you can to go around that circle shape twice. All right, and I'm going to keep adding some. So some are going to be larger and some smaller. Go. And then I'll add some here. And you don't have to pack yours in as tightly as I do. You could have them with a little bit of space in between them. I would invite you to experiment with spacing and see what you prefer. All right, and then to add to that, I think I will go from Tipple to the Printemps. And if you recall, that starts with kind of like a cursive C, and we just aura around it. And I'm going to tuck another one in here. And if you want a larger one, but you've run into uh, another tangle, you just pick your pen up and kind of air draw over to the other side and then keep going. All right. And then I think I will add tipple there and some there. So at this point, I'm tucking Printemps in there and then also adding additional tipple as needed. It's kind of just a random process. Like a tiny one in there. All right. And we can add a little tipple there. Maybe there. Maybe we'll just put one printemps here. Tuck that in. And then rotate over to here. And this will look great if you're making your own greeting cards. This would be really cute to put on there. I'm gonna put a little tipple in there. All right. Let's take a look. And I think actually I'd like to add a little tipple here. And we could add two tiny ones there. And maybe one here. And then I'm going to take a good look at this and see if I want to add any more anywhere else. And I think I'll add a little more tipple. Well, that's pretty good. All right, once I have the tipple and the printemps filled in to where I'm satisfied, and you might want to add more than I have, and by all means, take your time to do that. I like to go back in and fill in these little spaces just to add some drama so that the little orbs stand out better. It does take some time though. But I feel like it's definitely worth it. Some areas will have more spaces than others. Let's see, let's go over here. Rotate a little bit. Always remember to keep rotating so that you're comfortable, because we want this to be a fun experience. All right, and I kind of Like to rotate and take a look at the entire piece. If you would like, you can hold it up and rotate it around just to make sure you've filled in all the spaces. And again, we could start shading here and be done with that. And I think actually we will take time to do a little shading before we add our gel pen, because sometimes the gel pen has a tendency to smear. So around these areas with the printemps where it's behind other areas, I'm going to add some graphite like that. Just a little. You can always go back in and add more if you need to. And then let's see, we only have this small area here. All right, that looks pretty good. And then there's different ways you could shade the leaves in here. And I'm actually just going to go down off of the center incline on one side, and I'm just going to keep that consistent for each leaf. So I'm shading on the right side. I'm doing that for each one. And then I think I would also like to add a little graphite on the inside of the heart-shaped leaves here. I'm not adding a lot. I just want a touch of a shadow, just not anything too deep or too dark. But if you would like to have that darker, by all means, add more graphite. And then at this point, I am going to go around the outside, add graphite around the outside of the entire area that we tangled. And just take your time and enjoy the process. Once we've made it all the way around, you can set your pencil aside for a minute and pick up your tortillon. And I'm going to start shading from the inside out. So I'm going to go along the center lines and kind of blend that out. Once I've done that, then I'm going to blend these areas inside the leaves. All right. Okay, and then let's work in these areas that are hiding behind the other areas. We'll kind of blend those out. Don't have too many of those areas. All right, and then our last area to work out is all the way around the piece. And actually that's most of the time my favorite part because that's when your piece really starts to stand out. All right, so we're basically done. And if you like working in black and white and want to leave it like this, you can. Um, I'm going to add a little shading in here just to define those spaces. And I'm just doing that with the tip of my tortillon because I've got plenty of um, graphite on there already. So there we go. You could leave this like this, and it's beautiful. It's perfectly finished and has a lot of interest and a lot of depth. I am going to take it a step further and at this point use my gel pens because I'd like to add just a little bit of color. So I have a green Gelly Roll Metallic and I'm going to use that just to add some color to these areas here. Um, and this is optional, so you don't have to do this. And if you don't have one of these pens, you could use a colored pencil or a marker. But I am doing it last because sometimes it has a tendency to smear a little bit. All right, I've got one finished. We'll move on to the next one. So I have two finished. I'm going to skip the stem for a moment and go over to the last leaf. And then I'm going to go back to the stem. And I'm simply just going to fill it in with the green gel pen. And in the area at the end here, I'm just going to put a little Printemps like that. All right, so we've got a little bit of color there. And I'm going to now switch to a gold gel pen, and today I'm using Uniball. And for St. Patrick's Day, we have to have a little bit of gold. So I'm just randomly choosing some of the tipple to get a little bit of the gold color. Not all of them, but just here and there. If you would like them to all be gold, of course you can fill them in. So I'm just kind of taking a look here and there and seeing where I would like to add a little bit of gold. I have to say it is tempting to want to fill them all in. I think that's about all I'm going to do. If you'd like to keep going with that and add more, by all means, please do. Let's see if I can get this one in here. Yeah, it's really tempting to fill them all in. But I'm gonna leave it pretty much at this point right here. And then I'm going to pick up my black pen again, and I'm going to put my initials on there. I'm going to put my chop on there somewhere. And I like to rotate it around and see where I can tuck it in. And I see a little spot right here where I can put my initials in. All right. And then before filling out the back, make sure your tile is dry. I can see it's a little wet here. So I'm just going to take another look and see if I need any shading anywhere while I'm waiting for that to dry. Um, but yeah, how cute is that? This would look great on a card, a postcard, a greeting card, anything fun, or you could do a bunch of them like all together in a wreath. That would be super cute too. And so we can flip this over and fill it out. So we're on Tangle of the Week number 11. I like to put my name, and we're actually doing this on, well, I'm doing this on the 16th. I like to put the date. And this is our St. Patrick Day project. And we had a variation of Jonqual, but it could sort of look like Knightsbridge too. Um, or you could even use braids if you wanted to for that instead. But we used Jonqual. We had Tipple, and we had my favorite Printemps for our St. Patrick's Day project. And there we go. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. That was super fun, and I actually really love it. And I might experiment with, instead of using black ink, you could do this in green with a green pen or a metallic pen. You could actually color the tile with green watercolor before you tangle on it. That would be really sweet too. So there's lots of different ways you could do this. But thank you for joining me. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend and a very happy St. Patrick's Day. And I hope you join me next week for our next Tangle of the Week. And have a great day. I love you guys. Bye-bye.